Now, the 12th of August is a day that Susan Nevin and her family will never forget, because it was on this day that her brother's alcohol addiction took him from them forever.
Her brother Jock was an amazing artist, and his work will be featured in a new exhibition opening today outside In. This is his story.
Oh, naive little me, asking what things you have seen, and you're vulnerable in your...
Jock loved art. He always knew that's what he wanted to do. He was very passionate about it. He'd talk about it all the time. As long as I can remember, he always had a pen in his hand. He'd be just lying on the ground, just doodling away. He was at his happiest when he was painting or drawing. He would just get lost in his work. People realised he had a talent, and he was very much in demand for doing windows for Christmas and stuff in the town. Jock had Tourette syndrome, but Tourette syndrome doesn't really start to present itself till you're about 8 years of age or so. It was just little by little we started to notice that he was doing strange things, like, you know, throwing his head, kind of vocal tics. He used to get an awful lot of trouble because he'd have outbursts, or he'd be throwing his head or something at home, at school, and I suppose that must have been such a struggle for him. He struggled for a long time with his alcohol and drug addiction, but the main core of the problem was mostly the alcohol. His counsellors had said that that was their main concern, was the alcohol. He was diagnosed with alcoholic liver disease in July, I think. His complexion had been quite yellow and everything, and just gradually we could see that he was very bad, and he wasn't even aware anymore how bad he was. It had gone way beyond that, and it was just a case of waiting to hear the worst news, and eventually it did come. We got a call from the guards to say that he had been found in a cubicle in a local pub, and basically his body had given up. He was pronounced dead then in the middle of that night. He was a bit of a landmark in the town. People would always know, you know, you'd expect to see him around the town. And coming up to Christmas now, the Christmas windows, a lot of people are saying it's going to be very strange that the windows aren't going to be done in the shops. And, you know, he's very, you know, very well known, and he will be missed.
My brother's a psychiatrist in New Zealand, and when I was home in New Zealand 6 months ago, he took me to a couple of what is called, I suppose, outside art, which is really people, I suppose, on the fringe of society that wouldn't get a chance to show their art to other people, let alone sell it. So what I did is I came back with the idea of opening up a gallery here, and then I approached, you know, 4 different charities, which were Shine for mental health, Rehab Group, which is people using art through rehab, Down syndrome, and then Dublin Simon for the homeless. So everybody's represented here. At least these people get a voice through art, and, you know, they're using this as a positive influence in their life. And I mean, there's some amazing artworks here. It's all affordable. All the money raised here from the sale of it goes back to the artists of the charities involved. I'm just sort of running it as a gallery for a couple of months, just sort of asking people, look, on a Saturday and Sunday, if they're in the area around Spencer Dock, to come in, look at the type of art people are using for rehab, and look at the positive influence it's having on their lives.
This is the time of time.
It's great to see the work here, and for people to be able to appreciate what he did. I mean, he talked all the time about the exhibition he was going to do, but he just couldn't put his mind to it, you know. And for him to get some kind of recognition, I know he can't be here to kind of see it and everything, but he just deserves for people to see his work, even if it is this late.
Well, Jock's sister Susan Nevin is with us here now, along with Carol Pitcher from Tourette Support Ireland. You're both very welcome. Thanks for coming in to see us. Susan, watching that, it struck me that despite Jock's problems, he's a very gentle character. Would you agree? I mean, tell us about your brother and the man that you knew.
Absolutely, he was very gentle. Gentle is definitely a word now that a lot of people have said that, a gentle soul, you know. He was so funny, you know, very, very funny. He would always stop and talk to people downtown. He'd never pass anybody. Very friendly and very, you know, I mean, there was never any, you'd never see him in a bad mood or anything, you know. He'd just always be very pleasant.
And so when then did you first know, or did the family first come to know that there was a problem there and that Tourette's was an issue?
He was about, well, he was probably about 7 years of age when we started to notice him doing, you know, the little tics and things, as I mentioned, you know, and little kind of, he'd kind of throw his head and he'd shout out and stuff like that. And, you know, gradually they'd chop and change all the time, and he'd do different ones. And
We saw from the piece there that he was a hugely talented artist. Did he win many competitions?
He did, yeah. He won competitions in school. He won one for the St Patrick's Day float and stuff like that. He was actually on Action Station Saturday in RTE with one of his competition winnings, and you know, just a few things like that. He had trophies and stuff for those.
It's very hard for your family, because I think any family watching who has somebody, a brother or a sister, or whoever it might be, who suffers from an addiction knows the pain that the family goes through.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of sorry.
You probably, as a family, came together a number of times to try and help him.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you know, we used to take him to, he was assessed in Coonware, down in Athy, and different places that would cope with addiction and stuff, you know. He did a little bit of rehab as well. And we brought him, I mean, we had him psychologically assessed as well, just in case, you know, to rule out anything else, you know, because it was hard to tell why he just couldn't get on top of, get on control of his addiction, you know.
And Carol, is Jock's story, is it a common one?
I think Jock's story is very unique, as is anyone's life story. So it's very common to themselves. But in relation to his tics, I never met Jock. I wasn't privileged to do that. You know, tics are very, they can be very complex, or they can be quite simple. So, you know, there is no common area in relation to Tourette's.
But Tourette's, I think it's very much misunderstood, though.
It's so misunderstood, and that's what Tourette's Support Ireland is trying to do.
Because I think the first time I came across it was, there was some fella on Big Brother a few years ago, and where I thought that it was just all about cursing.
Well, that's the misconception that the media tend to hone in on each time they actually, you know, address Tourette's. It's always about the swearing. And only 1 in 10 people who have Tourette syndrome have actually got coprolalia, which is the term used to describe the swearing and the outbursts. But my own son, who has Tourette's and was diagnosed at 9, his tics would be quite simple. And then it depends, I suppose, on, you know, each person is different. So it's, you know, it's an individual story.
It must be lovely for your family, Susan, to see that exhibition up and running now, because as you said in the piece that we saw earlier on, Jock always wanted to exhibit his art.
Exactly. I mean, it was something he always said he would do, but he just couldn't put his mind to, you know, just to pulling it together. And you know, people would probably wonder why we hadn't done all of this before. But you know, our main concern was that he would get well and, you know, hopefully do it himself. I mean, we would have assisted him, of course, but you know,
because he used to do the windows in pubs and restaurants and cafes in the area.
He did every, you know, Christmas.
People will miss that, no?
Absolutely, they're all saying it. Even, you know, there's a tribute page on Facebook for him. People are all saying, you know, they're actually commenting that they're going to miss it, you know. And it was a huge landmark in Drogheda, you know. He would really, the windows would really stand out, you know.
Well, look, you're great to tell his story, because it is such a recent event in your life. I'm sure you're still dealing with your grief, so thank you very much for telling us all about it. And Carol, thanks to you as well for coming in. If you'd like more information on Tourette's Support Ireland, or if you know anyone who is experiencing problems with alcohol, then all of the helpline numbers and details can be found on our website. That's rte.ie/TV/The Daily Show.